In this video, I'm going to break down my new LinkedIn marketing framework so you can grow on LinkedIn faster and start generating 20 to 150 high quality leads per month. I'm Nathaniel. I'm the founder of Australia's first LinkedIn marketing agency. I've helped over 20,000 brands, including Apple, generate more than $650 million in sales using LinkedIn. Now listen closely, because it's not generic advice that you see everywhere. This is the new way to grow on LinkedIn that very few people talk about. Most people treat LinkedIn like Facebook or Instagram, and that's why they fail. LinkedIn is a professional platform. People are on there to do business, but only 1% of people are actually posting content. So the opportunity is huge. 3 out of 4 people on LinkedIn are key decision makers. So if 3 out of 4 are key decision makers and only 1% are posting content, the opportunity is massive for you to gain attention. And it looks like at the moment, it's 2 organic posts in the feed and then 1 ad, right? So 2/3 of the content is organic, it's free. 2/3 of the real estate is free, and only 1% of the people on LinkedIn are competing for it. So there's a huge arbitrage there to create free content, but you've got to be consistent, right? You've got to show up. And people don't want to show up when it's a professional platform. They don't even want to do it on Instagram or Facebook. So it's no surprise they don't want to do it on LinkedIn, because they're worried about what other people think. And in a professional context, that could cost you your livelihood. Here's what I'm going to suggest. You can't fit in and stand out at the same time. If you want to make an impact, you've got to be different. You've got to lean into what's uniquely you. Be authentic. What makes you different? If you look at Gary Vee or Stephen Bartlett or Richard Branson or Elon Musk, what do they have in common apart from being successful? It's that they're uniquely themselves, right? They're not trying to be like somebody else. So stop trying to copy and emulate others that are successful. Lean into what makes you authentic. When I first started posting video content, it took me about 2 years before I got any traction. And then I recorded this video. We were in the middle of an interview, and I started telling this story about how I started my business. And rather than telling the normal generic version I tell, which really comes from a place where I had a bit of imposter syndrome, because I started my business career when I was like 17. So I'm always the youngest person in the room. I always wore a suit to overcompensate, and I never really let people into the chaos that was going on behind the scenes. And so in this story, I shared that I started my business with no money. I just quit my job. I had $20,000 in debt. I was getting evicted. My electricity bill was not paid. My car was empty with petrol. I started my business the next day, and I tell that story. It's the first time I ever said it out loud, let alone on video, right? And when the editor sent it back to me to review the edit, it took me like 2 or 3 weeks before I was just like, one night I was like, do you know what? No one's watching my videos anyway. Post. And I had to walk away from the computer so that I didn't delete it after I posted. And the next morning I woke up and there was just DMs, comments. I even had missed phone calls and text messages from people who had watched it and said, Nathaniel, I found that really inspiring. Thanks for being authentic. Or I've been in a similar situation, or you've motivated me to, So people are attracted to authenticity. So I think the biggest thing you can do is stop trying to fit in and start leaning in to who you really are. So one of the things when it comes to selling on LinkedIn is you need to inject yourself into the content, right? So you don't want to post content that people just find on Google, because then they're like, well, why are we on LinkedIn? If I wanted to find stuff on Google, I'd probably go there, or I'd go to AI, ChatGPT. I wouldn't be on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn because I want to connect with humans, right? So you need to inject yourself into the post. It only takes like 1 line to do this. You have to say where you learn the information from. One of the most basic things that you can try is do the epiphany bridge story. Let me explain. So if you're like a subject matter expert at what you do, right? You know more than the people you help, right? There was a point in your life where you didn't know everything, right? So go back to that point, and it's kind of where your clients are now, right? They're a bit confused. They've got a problem, okay? So how did that feel? What sort of thoughts were going through your head? And then you explain the problem really well, so they go, oh, he gets it. He's been exactly where I am. And then explain when you had the epiphany that led to the transformation, if that makes sense. So what you're doing is you're actually closing the gap from where they are now to where they want to be by sharing your own experience. And that is a very powerful way to build trust. People won't believe you if you just say, do this, like share with them how you learn that. Storytelling is one of the most powerful ways to get people to remember your content. In fact, Do you know what? It's the only way to get people to remember your content. Everyone should have a good epiphany bridge story to use in their content, and you can repeat that over and over again. You need to be consistent. You know, in the old days before the internet, it was much more powerful if you were sending leaflets to a building, flyers to a building. Instead of sending one flyer to every office or apartment in 3 different buildings, you're much better off sending to one building, but sending the flyer 3 times. Why? Because repetition is what actually breeds sales. It's way more effective to hit somebody 3 times than hit 3 times as many people. So hit them with the same message again and again. These days, attention spans are so short and they're getting bombarded with so many marketing messages, it's more like 23 times. There's a thing called the mere exposure effect, which says the more times that someone is exposed to your brand, the more familiar it is. Makes sense, right? But here's the catch. The more familiar it is, the more liked it is, the more trusted it is, the more likely they are to do business with you than the next guy. I mean, you don't really actually have to be more liked as long as you're more familiar. If I drive down the street and I see 3 Coca-Cola billboards and I don't see any Pepsi billboards, all things being equal, I'm more likely to buy Coca-Cola. And the same thing happens with your content. So think about, how can I get 23, 24, 25 exposures in front of my ideal client that connects with the problem that you solve and it doesn't come across salesy, that builds trust. If you do that, my friends, you will win social media. That's what the game's about. Well, I've generated 650 million in sales for our clients, right? But I didn't start out that way. What I did is I joined a company in Melbourne. I was doing online marketing sales and I was new to the industry. I was in real estate before that. And there's all these other sales guys and they're competing and there's a sales meeting at the end of the month. So I said to my boss, what's the ideal client for digital marketing? He said, oh, that's easy. It's medical practices, dentists, cosmetic surgeons, and the like. And I just did what I've always done and I tried cold calling them. Now, medical practices have something called a practice manager and their job is to stop people like me speaking to the business owner, the head dentist or the surgeon, whatever. And so that didn't work. So I made a list of all their addresses and I went and door knocked, walked in, same thing. That practice manager was sat right there.
What?
And they stopped me from speaking to the dentist or surgeon. And this was just about the time that LinkedIn came out and I had a photograph of me at a nightclub going like this. Because I had like the same photo I used on Facebook in my 20s. And I thought, I wonder if they're on here. And sure enough, I did a search and there was some on there. And I thought, I don't know if this is going to work because medical guys aren't on the computer all the time. So I sent a connection request to 10 surgeons. I had 6 responses. I had 4 meetings. I made 1 sale. Now, the average transaction for the company I was working for was about $3,000 or $4,000 for a website. That's the setup cost. This particular setup cost was $25,000, right? So a lot of people coming to the sales meeting were doing like $25,000 in a month, and it was like 12 sales that they had to do to get that. Whereas I rocked up and I've just done 1 sale, and it's $25,000. So the next week, I sent out twice as many messages. I sent out 20, made 2 sales, and I just grew from there. And it didn't take long before my boss said, "Hey, Nathaniel, come in here for a sec. If you like, I can hire you an assistant so they can do the LinkedIn stuff for you, and you could spend all your time doing meetings." And I thought, oh. But they wouldn't be able to do it. And I systemized it. I systemized what I was doing. Find, connect, engage. Now we added the extra step of nurture, right? So find people in the ideal target market. Sales Navigator's fantastic. And I've got these strategies to filter down by multiple different search criteria so that we find the exact people that you want to target, the high ticket clients. Then we send them customized connection requests. We build rapport with them and their content. We narrow them down by what signals are going to show high buyer intent. Whether they're more active on LinkedIn, whether they posted recently. Guys that have changed jobs, not immediately, not within the first 3 or 4 months, but like 7 or 8 months after they've just changed jobs is a time when they're looking to make an impact and make big decisions. Those are guys that are really good to target in B2B. So we target people very specifically, send them customized invitations that are very different to what customized invitations you would receive from salespeople because they talk about themselves. They're like, "Hi, we're a web..." We don't do that. You wouldn't know it was a sales person contacting you if you got one of my connection requests. We make it all about the other person. It's not about you. It's about the other person. Show interest in them. And we get a high conversion rate. We're looking for about 30% or up on one of our campaigns recently where we actually targeted people who posted recently, engaged on their content first. We got 88% conversion rate. 88, that's like 9 in 10. That's unheard of. Now, Once they become a new connections, we want to send a message. Same thing. Don't talk about yourself. Show interest in them. If they want to know more, they want to know who you are, they will click on your name and read your profile. And guess what? If they've clicked, it's an inbound activity. That means they've asked for the information. That means they're actually going to read it. So this isn't theory. This is battle-tested strategy over the last 12 years on LinkedIn, 25 years in digital marketing. I'm a sales guy at heart. Everything maps down to return on investment and gives your business the competitive edge. A great LinkedIn strategy is just the beginning of dominating your industry. You need proper profile optimization, content systems, outreach sequences, lead nurturing processes, etc., to consistently generate results while you focus on closing deals. So if you're ready to turn LinkedIn into your most powerful growth engine and start generating 20 to 150 high quality leads per month with strategies that actually work, then click the first link in the description and book your free strategy session. We'll smash your current LinkedIn results or you don't pay. That's my guarantee to you. I'll see you in the next one.